have you ever felt abandoned, like after someone's ghosted you completely, or even if you didn't say that out loud, there's some part you kind of felt that way, or, maybe you've caught yourself just doom scrolling, waiting for that reply that just never comes, or suddenly, you find your whole body just feeling on edge from these types of things. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know this isn't just about that person who didn't text you back, okay? This runs so much deeper. Your brain and your body are actually wired to respond to abandonment in ways that you might not even realize you're experiencing. It can be hardwired into just your limbic system. And a lot of it comes from something we call complex relational trauma. Something you may have heard about by now, but if not, tune in. Okay, so today we're diving into why this happens, how your nervous system is reacting to relationships, and most importantly, what you can do to heal from it. Okay, so first and foremost, why abandonment fears even show up? Why are there so many adults walking around with fear of abandonment in their subconscious wiring? When we experience repeated relational wounds, things like emotional neglect from caregivers or betrayal in relationships or even inconsistent caregiving. I kind of call that like buckshot and apple pie. You don't know which one you're going to get, especially in your childhood. Your nervous system, it learns to expect abandonment as a core threat. Okay. That means even as an adult, your body is still reacting as if you're in danger when you sense even a little distance in a relationship, that threat feeling and sensation just lights up through your system. So see, your brain doesn't necessarily distinguish between, I haven't heard from them in a few hours and I'm about to be abandoned forever and lose this person in my life. It just doesn't make that distinction logically because it's an emotional reaction. It registers separation, any degree of it, as threat. And that's why we get so many of these hijacking type reactions. So, some common signs of abandonment anxiety: overanalyzing text messages, conversations, or responses, or lack thereof, feeling physically anxious in your body when someone starts to pull away from you or you perceive them doing so, needing that constant reassurance or validation if you feel like you're needy in a relationship, or even the other way, pushing people away before they can leave you first. Very strategic there. You might even find yourself self-sabotaging relationships when actually they're healthy relationships. If any of that sounds familiar, let me know in the comments. Put an emoji, say something, message us, because it's really common. And what's been the hardest part for you to navigate those abandonment fears in your own life? What is that like for you to live with that? Really think about that for a minute. Let's take this a step further. How does social media actually fuel abandonment anxiety? Now, let's talk about something that makes this even more intense: social media. We all engage with it. We all do it. It's not evil. It's just a thing we need to realize is happening. That we live in a world where connection is instant, but so is disconnection. And when we have fear of abandonment, things like ghosting, silent treatments, sudden unfollowing, these all mimic a real life abandonment that you might be reacting to. And your nervous system reacts the same way it would if someone just walked out of your life in real time. It's an emotional reaction, not a logical response, okay? But one unread message, for example, can feel like rejection. Makes sense? When you seeing someone post but not responding to you, it can feel like you're being ignored in a real life interaction. Or even more like watching people move on with life without you on social media. It feels like you're just being left behind and left out. So what happens in your brain, it realizes your brain is internalizing it as if it's a threat to your attachment, even when logically you know it's just an app. It's just so many other alternative explanations could be happening. That's logic. You're having emotional reactions. So why social media makes this worse? It creates an illusion of this constant availability. So when someone doesn't respond, it feels really personal to you, doesn't it? There's triggers and comparison and rejection spirals that, it gets the best of all of us from time to time. We got to catch those things. It can also reinforce anxious attachment behaviors like seeking validation from likes, comments, messages, and wanting that validation. But if you've ever felt like social media has actually made you feel worse, more anxious, or abandoned, start a conversation with us. Let us know. Message us, drop a comment, because I promise you, you're not alone in this. So let's get to the good stuff. How does healing actually work? How do we heal from this, right? We're so many of us walking around with it. How do we stop living in survival mode and start feeling really secure in our relationships? Even when those relationships might change or evolve, how can you still feel secure in that? I'm going to give you 3 main tips that you can work with your therapist or on your own to heal abandonment anxiety and that fear of abandonment trigger. Number 1, regulate your nervous system. Healing starts with nervous system regulation, okay? If your body is in constant fight or flight or freeze, you're always feeling like relationships are unsafe and you're not going to be playful and fun and bring the full self because you're always protecting, right? Practical tools, breath work. Talk to your therapist about breath work. Number 2, grounding exercises, getting mindful in your senses, right? And 3, identifying triggers before they can even escalate. That's number 1. Number 2, building a secure internal connection. Most people feel they try to fix abandonment wounds, even subconsciously. You're not really consciously going after this, but even subconsciously, most people are going to try to fix abandonment wounds by finding the right person who won't leave. And when you do that, you're putting a lot of this subconscious pressure from your inner child wounding, childhood stuff onto a relationship that it was never designed to carry in the first place. Okay. So let me tell you that healing starts inside first. So let me give you some practical tools on how we even begin to approach that part of this. My favorite way is inner dialogue work. I like to call it soul spirit dialogue work. This is one of the main things that my team at Into Eden will harness in on with you. It's going to be around internal dialoguing with the parts of yourself that's in dissonance, the wound, plus all the different types of mindset defense mechanisms, reactions you have, ways you have subconsciously just in your personality that protects you from fear of abandonment or perceived threat. When you start using inner dialogue work as a really practical strategy to get at the root and actually heal this stuff. I think another thing that you can do with your therapist is journaling. Journaling is fantastic. You can dialogue these journals out or just journal your prayers. And then another one is learning to self-soothe without that external validation that you need from other people. Take that to build those things within yourself feels so much more secure and stable than needing the people in your environment around you to have to do things for you in certain kinds of ways. That's exhausting for you and them. So that was the second one. The third big tip is to anchor yourself in kingdom identity. This is where faith integration really comes in. Kingdom identity is what I just call how God sees you. Anchor yourself in how he sees you. Finally, this is where faith really can start transforming everything. And when I say faith, I don't mean just some like wishful hope you throw out to the universe. When I say faith, I mean your agreement with what God says. Something that you can't quite see about yourself, but God is saying to you through scripture, through your own still small voice of your connection with him, that relational presence of who God is in your life is going to speak to who you are. And when you can agree with that, you are now exercising faith. That's what I mean by faith when it comes to your kingdom identity. You are never designed to be defined by who stays in your life and who leaves. Your worth is not found in other people's approval or acceptance of you. It is in God's unshakable love that is defining your value. Okay, so in this aspect of anchoring in kingdom identity, some practical tools, of course, are prayer. Pray and engage. Prayer is not, just a reciting of things you memorized growing up in church. Prayer is an engagement with a person, the presence of a person, and turning to him in a really meaningful way. Scripture meditation is one of my favorite. I use this company called Dwell, and I put like a little temporary tattoo on my wrist. It just helps me just dwell differently is the name of the company, but it helps me dwell on scripture meditation in a really natural way for me and stay mindful to that. And even shifting identity internally from rejection to belonging, because you belong to a higher kingdom, a higher call, and you can shift that perspective. It's a game changer. Okay, so if what I'm saying is resonating with you, you are not alone in this. We've talked to so many clients, hundreds of clients, And we have walked them through journeys just like this. And you don't have to figure this out on your own. You can, because there's a lot out there on the internet now, things like this to prompt you in the right directions, but we're here to help you. And here's what you do next. You can do something like, just dropping a comment or a message here if this is hitting home, just to start a conversation. Or you could start following these channels, follow my channel, and just get more on the healing of trauma and faith integration and nervous system work. But if you're really ready for real healing, go ahead and click the link in the bio, learn more about what it takes to get started learning the LIFT method to work with my team. The LIFT method is our integration of psychological science and faith affirming space. And let's start working together on your journey.